why you may have low confidence. Because if we continue as we are, and we have these things going on in our subconscious, these beliefs about ourselves going on in our subconscious, we'll never be able to change them. It's a bit like the unknown unknowns.
Yes.
If you don't know what the blockers or barriers are, you're never going to change them. And so one has to bring those out into the light, into awareness, to see what they are, understand where they come from, where these beliefs or these barriers have come from, and only then can we start to change them. And the Mandala leadership process is a 7-step process to help leaders become truly authentic, and that actually has the changing of your beliefs as its very first step, bringing those beliefs into awareness, and then changing those beliefs about yourself is the first thing to do. And it is a step, it is a big step, it's a courageous step to do. But after that tipping point, leaders can really progress, can really achieve more, can really fulfill their careers. And let's talk about that first step today, shall we? So changing your beliefs.
Yeah.
What are your leadership beliefs? How do you get beliefs about yourself? Well, I believe there's what's called the two-way ripple effect. And the two-way ripple effect is if you imagine you jump into the middle of a lake, a still lake. It's only waist deep, don't worry. And you create ripples on the water. Those ripples on the water ripple out and out and out from you in the center. But as they hit the outside of the lake, they start rippling back. And that's the two-way ripple effect. And each of those ripples, the outside ripples, are the beliefs and lessons about yourself that you've been taught by perhaps your wider community, your religious group, your school, wherever you've been. What did your teacher tell you about yourself? You'll amount to nothing, young man. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
And as you come a step closer in, or a ripple closer in, it's what about the people you've worked with and the bosses that you've worked with over the years? And how many of those said you're amazing, and how many of those said something different? And as you get a step closer in, or a ripple closer into the middle of the lake, to where you're standing, coming in closer to your good self, what is it you've learned from your family, your father, your mother, particularly if you work in a family business, they're your boss as well? And what lessons have they taught you over the years? Did you always get everything right, and were you always brilliant, or were you criticised or put down and you started to believe that everything you did wasn't going to be good enough? And you can see how those rippling attitudes towards you, or those rippling comments that have been made towards you over the years, will start to create a mindset or a series of beliefs, which may be positive or negative. And then the danger is that if you get into that negative mindset, every time you perceive that you failed at something, it simply reinforces that belief.
Yes.
So it's a bit like, so one of mine, for example, is that I can't believe anyone's name. I can't remember anyone's name. And because I forgot someone's name once, it was embarrassing, and I told myself I couldn't remember anyone's name. So now every time I meet someone, I go, I won't remember your name. Guess what happens? I don't remember anyone's name.
Funny how that works.
It's quite simple. Yeah, exactly. It's really quite simple. But if I could, or if I can now, actually, I found a way to do it. It's a great technique to do. Change that mindset to, I will remember your name, and every time I see you, I will call you by your name, because I'll be proud to have remembered it. So that, it's just a different mindset, but it had to be made aware to me that I was bad at remembering names before I chose to do something about it. And some beliefs you'll have is, I always have to be on time. That's a belief I have. And I know where that one came from. And I forget people's names. I know where that one came from. But some people will have, or some leaders will have, beliefs that they're not confident, because every time they try to do something, it's been perceived as failure.
Yeah.
And some will therefore go, so therefore, why should I try? Because I'll fail.
Yeah. Is it as simple as just sort of saying to yourself, oh, okay, I used to believe I can't remember someone's name. Now I know I can remember the name. Surely there's more to it than that? Yeah.
It's not that simple. I don't believe you can simply put a positive belief on top of a negative belief.
Yeah.
I think you have to clear the negative belief out of the way first. So just standing in front of the mirror and chanting a mantra to yourself every morning, or bouncing up and down a trampoline, or whatever it is that serves you some positive thought, I don't believe that works.
I'm with you on that. To be honest, it just does not seem to work at all. You're right.
I think you have to bring that negative belief into awareness and clear that negative belief before you can start to reinsert positive ones.
Right. How could one go about clearing those negative beliefs? I mean, is that something that's simple to do, or is that something that takes a little bit of work with maybe a coach or an expert like that? What's sort of involved?
So it takes a bit of work with the coach. There are processes that you can go through, but the first thing is to bring those beliefs into awareness. And as part of the show today, Keith, I'm quite happy to offer any of the listeners access to the first step of this process for free, and they can read through the more detail of this. And there's a worksheet that they can work through as well to try and get a better understanding of their beliefs and what might be limiting them from having the confidence that they need.
Oh, fantastic! That's a very generous offer, and we'll give people full details of how to access that. We'll give them that just toward the end of the show. But that's, Nick very kindly let me have a wee sneak preview of the document earlier today, and it is very good. It is very powerful. So, and it's very good of him to actually share that with us. So we'll give you all the details on how to get that toward the end of the show today. But stick around for that. You're definitely going to want to get hold of that. Sorry to interrupt you.
That's one of the things I believe, that actually it does take courage to take action, as I said earlier on. But each of the 7 steps in the Mandala Leaders process has an action at the end of it. And by reading and understanding more and then taking that action, and it's only a small one to start with, the first step doesn't have to be huge, but just taking that action is a huge step forward. It is progress and will help to build confidence.
Yeah, you're right. So it all starts with taking that. It's like that whole the proverb, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. But that first step, you're right. It doesn't have to be a very big one either. Just to get you started, does it?
Absolutely right. And in fact, the first step doesn't necessarily need to be in exactly the right direction.
Really?
If your first step,
Well,
if your goal is to get from A to B and you're going straight ahead, think of it as if you're like an aeroplane.
Yeah.
If you're flying from London to New York, do you go direct from London to New York? No, you go over the polar cap, because it's the quicker, most efficient route to do it. So whilst you still get to your goal in 7 hours, you take a different route to get there. And all the way as you're flying there, the wind will be different. It'll be blowing you west or east. It'll take you up or down. It'll make you go slower or faster. And so you'll be moving around in the air all the way through that journey. And you won't be on a clean, straight route. But guess what? You'll be in New York in 7 hours' time. And that was the goal of the flight. So you'll get there. So what I'm saying is, take a first step. And even if you're a few degrees off on your first step, that's great, because you're a step forward.
You know, that is a very, very good way of putting it. So I guess for a lot of people, they go, okay, I know I've got to make a step, but what if I make the wrong step? What if I head in the wrong way? And so basically what you're saying is just take a step, because once you've started, I guess it's kind of it's kind of easier to change your direction when you're moving than to change direction when you stood still. So even if your first step is in the wrong direction, at least you're moving. You'll now know that you need to change into a different direction.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the other travel, the sporting analogy that I like is when you're sailing. I was sailing over the weekend, load of fun with a. Actually, we had 8 coaches on a boat. Actually, we were all joking that we were all going to be asking each other how you would like to sail the boat as opposed to actually sailing it. but no, we got sailing, and we found it so much easier when we were moving for the rudder to move, to change direction. When you were doing very slowly, the moving the rudder doesn't make any difference, and you continue to travel slowly in possibly the wrong direction. But when you start to accelerate the pace, it's far more easy to change direction and to be more agile and to change more quickly and to adapt as you go. But you still got to get moving. You still got to take that first step.
Yeah, that's very, very true. I mean, it's bringing to mind I can't remember the exact figure, so I'm bound to get this wrong, but it's the principle is the thing. It's very recently it was the 47th, I think, 48th anniversary of the first Apollo moon landing, and one of the really interesting stats, or I found it really interesting when I first heard it, was the Apollo 11 craft. It was something like, I can't remember the figure, but it's something like 1% of the time it was actually on course. All the rest of the time it was actually flying off course, and they had to keep course correcting the whole way. So, but the important thing was they were moving, they were heading. You make those slight course corrections, see where you're going, adjust, see where you're going, adjust. But you've got to be going to start with. If they hadn't launched, they wouldn't be able to correct course, and they wouldn't have landed on the moon. So, same as with your sailing analogy there.
Absolutely, very much the same, Keith. And it brings me quite nicely on to the second thing I wanted to talk about, which is actually having a clear plan.
Ooh. Go for it.
So if you have a clear plan, you know what your goal looks like. Mm-hmm. And it might be a financial target. It might be a number of satisfied customers. It might be volume of deliveries made. It might be personal. And it doesn't matter what the goal is, but let's have a goal. And let's write that goal down. And let's be smart about that goal. So let's make sure it's specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound, i.e. we're going to do exactly this number of things in this way in 1 year, and we've got the appropriate resources that we need to do that, resources being time, money, people, IT, whatever it is. And therefore, it's a clearly achievable goal. And if you set a goal that's not achievable, the level of confidence people are going to have is very low. And getting from a low starting point is quite difficult. So actually, sometimes you have to set a goal that's more easily achievable, and people go, yeah, actually, we can do that. It's an immediate confidence boost.
Right, okay.
But to have that goal clearly defined and agreed upon is the first part of making a plan. Yeah. Because then you have to build your steps towards achieving that goal. So what is your first step? And your first step might be a small one. It might be slightly at a tangent. That's okay. It's a step. And then what's your second step that's a bit bigger? And what's your third step that's a bit bigger? And 6 or 7 steps to get to your goal. Doesn't need to be more than that, because otherwise it gets too complicated and people won't remember it. But you need to have a clear direction of travel, a clear route, a clear series of steps to get to where you're going to be, to what that goal is. And when you've got a plan, it's a lot easier to go into the office in the morning, and because you know what you're going to do. There's none of this, I'm not sure I'm doing the right thing, or whether I should be doing it that way, or whether so-and-so should be doing it, and I'm not sure. It's just, that's the step. Let's go do it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense there. Reminds me of a thing, to-do lists. I went through a phase of going, right, I'm going to create my to-do list at the start of the week so I know what I'm going to be doing through the week. Of course, you then spend the whole of Monday attempting to create your to-do list. Now, what do I need to do? Until somebody said to me, you know what? Write your to-do list on Friday afternoon. What? Right, nice. On Friday afternoon. So you come in on Monday morning, the first thing you do, that's the first thing I'm doing. It's on my to-do list, bam, and you're straight into doing your work.
Absolutely. And the other thing I teach my clients to do is to look at what's the most horrible, gnarly, scary thing on that to-do list and do that first.
Really? Do that first?
Yeah, do that first. Otherwise, it's so easy to put it off, procrastinate, leave it to Friday afternoon. Then you go to the next week's list, and it never gets done. But if you do it first, the sense of achievement, the sense of accomplishment, And the amount of confidence that can be built by doing that is quite amazing.
Oh, right. So you're basically kind of getting them